welcome to the first meeting of the Capital Projects and Tenders Committee for 2022. Let's hope we're going to have a profitable year on the committee. We have a couple of apologies so far from Representative Tumahai and Councillor Hart. That's all we have. Someone like to move that, well, I shall move that those apologies be received. Councillor Davidson, second that. In favour? Aye. Declarations of interest is on Teams, is on the way. Please make certain that that's up to date for your circumstances. Thank you. No urgent items not on the agenda. We need to no urgent items. Thank you. Okay, item 4 takes us to the minutes of the last meeting of this committee, which were on 3rd of August 2021. Seems a long time ago. Those minutes have been circulated. You would have read them on Teams. So we need, I shall move. No, I can't do that because I wasn't there with someone who was there. I'd like to move that those minutes, that's the ones of 3rd of August 2021, be confirmed as a true and correct record of that meeting.
I'll move that.
Councillor Davidson, Paul, will you? Yes. Okay, so I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed Capital Projects and Tenders Committee meeting minutes of 3rd of August 2021. Okay, that brings us to item 5, which is the actual extracts.
In terms of the first item on the action list, which is about the Wharf Street Stormwater pipe, that project is now being completed with a new outflow in place, which is significantly higher than the usual outflow. It has a non-return valve on it, and in terms of details of how it will actually function is if the river rises to a certain point that is level with the pipe, then that non-return valve will close. What that will mean is that any water that then sits within the pipe will then back up, and it will back up to a point at which it will come out elsewhere, and the elsewhere will be run down Tankard Street, and then that will get picked up by the pumping station on Tankard Street and taken through another outfall. The whole thing will be based upon pressure equalisation, so effectively if the water flow down the pipe is greater than the flow coming up from the river, obviously it will open back up again, the water will flow into the river. So that essentially is the mechanics of it. We had some examples of that this week about where it functioned perfectly in terms of how it should have done, and I have staff down there having looked to make sure that it was.
Yep, that's that was good. It was quite a good flood. Do you know what level it would come up to last time it all started?
To the last?
Yeah, the last week. Yeah.
So we now have a monitoring point on Canary Bridge.
Oh yes.
So got to 5.2 metres of Canary Bridge. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what that correlation is in terms of the gorge, because obviously to cover other rivers that feed into or areas of feed. But they haven't got that marked out as alarm levels yet until they get some more data coming through from Canary Bridge. But we had about 2.5 metres of freeboard still to go.
Really? Yeah. And that's not the worst rain events we've had.
No, the worst one was March 19, significant. So where the gorge got up to about 6.5, that equated to we almost topped. I think we had about another foot to go over freeboard that time. Bearing in mind that this last weather event, the rivers were pretty well blown dry or empty compared to that previous event.
Scott, can I raise an issue with you that I mentioned to Simon a few days ago in relation to the pumps? Right. The plan is to increase the height of the pool down there. So presumably the outfall for those pumps will be also increased in height. Because if we have a very substantial rain event that's going to cause a flood in the river, it's going to be a flood in Hokitika, and the pump stations are going to have to be able to get rid of that water. And so therefore it seems to me that part of the planning for the new wall must necessarily require that the existing outfall level of pump be commensurably increased in height.
I will get my team to do a commensurate study on that, make sure that the things are consistent. So yes, I'm sure we'll take that away.
You'd have to speak up, Scott.
Sorry, we will take that away, but yes, we will need to make sure that the pumps work in the way that they're meant to.
Yeah.
That goes as an action point.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this is to do with obviously the design work that's happening with Regional Council. If you recall last July, I think it was, we wrote to Regional Council to fast track priority work around Hokitika River. Today that's still yet to happen. I understand that based on today's correspondence in the Guardian that they have almost completed that design. We need to be part of that final
You need to see it. For example, there's the issue of the slipway. We want to make sure that's not
to try.
That'd be quite tricky.
Well, they potentially may need to move that slipway altogether and find another avenue for access. So that design would need to be part of our design in terms of our water engineers anyway, for stormwater management.
Yeah.
So it's the issue of the slipway, which I think is a very crucial one, because that's used a lot. And the height of the pumps. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I was talking to some of the electrical people that look after those pumps.
Yep.
Down at Tankard Street when we had that flood last week. Unfortunately, they didn't get any photos of it, but the amount of water that was getting pumped out was just tremendous. So the pump at Tankard Street worked really well. So it's really good to hear that.
Yeah, it's interesting because my team are out looking at it and said we wish we'd take some photographs as well.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, haven't.
Yeah.
Is that a backed up system? In other words, does it have a diesel generator to back it up?
I need to find that out.
No. It doesn't have a self-generator that sits beside it just in case. Previously we've had West Coast supply generators at point of use just in case, but we have a 2-pump system now just in case one fails.
Just that I guess we had something major electrical issue at both of them. But then I suppose we can bring a generator is
It's a good point to have a backup system because if it did flood through the town here, the cost of just looking after the infrastructure, pumping all those pipes out, all the silt and sand would be millions and millions of dollars. So it'd be quite good to have a backup system there.
Take that away as well.
Through the chair, just regarding the slipway, I agree that the slipways should be retained where it is, if possible. And I think talked about the design of the regional council. Maybe they could have some those concrete slabs that they've put in place with loaders with Greymouth.
The issue with like a gate.
They just
the issue with
lay them in place.
the road. The current location of the slipway is they're going to have to raise everything up a metre and a half, which would mean Gibson Quay's going to have to be raised a metre and a half. So somehow there needs to be a barrier to still be able to access that slipway.
I think the through the chairs, the access to the slipway would be further east. To keep the same grade going back. So there may have to be a few alterations to where things are at the moment.
Well, I think it's a design issue we need to be thinking about sooner rather than later, because
absolutely.
once the plan's done, then it's kind of fait accompli.
Sure.
It still needs to go through the consenting process, so we need to approve. We're a major stakeholder.
Can we get a copy of hands-on plans that so far? Is that possible?
I could suggest the regional presents to council or to the committee. We have to be pretty quick.
Let's be away at each meeting.
This will mean there have to be probably a March council meeting.
Yes. I think it's really important that this is a really important part of our town's infrastructure. We want to be thinking through every aspect of it.
But in the interim, whatever operational meeting with the key staff and design.
Yeah, totally agree with like the wall. You know, the protecting the town. You know, it's critical that we move. You know, quickly on it and move together on it. We work together to get that design work done and start the construction of it.
And it's also crucial that the wall is a positive amenity, not just a big negative barrier.
Yeah.
The visual barrier, which is going to be an unfortunate aspect of it.
Yeah.
When you're driving down that part of town, you're not going to see the river, which is going to be a shame, I think.
The biggest challenge to Chair is Gibson Key in terms of aesthetically and the room to be able to build something that doesn't compromise the existing infrastructure.
Sure.
Okay. The second element on the action listing is a seismic report on bridges in the district to bring to the committee for information. We're commissioning a piece of research that will look at our higher risk bridges in the first instance, and we'll be bringing that back with recommendations on what we need to do. The exercise in undertaking a full seismic review for the entire district is very expensive to do, so we felt it would be better to pick the higher issues first and then take a view at the next stage and phase it, and that will come back to committee at due course.
How many bridges are we looking at, do you know, Scott?
In total, we have about 260, 280 bridges across the whole of Westland. So it is about what's the critical infrastructure for us in the higher risk items first. You're looking, if you were to commission a full survey across all bridges in one go, you're looking probably in excess of $200,000 for the study.
The reality is that most of our bridges are very old and seismically probably suspect.
And it differs between the old concrete reinforced bridges put together by industrial works and what you would describe as sectional box steel bridges, which maybe have a slightly different way depending on how things impact. Certainly the AF8 earthquake session that I went to in Great Mouth about 4 or 5 months ago showed the impact of the earthquake on the bridges in Kaikoura. And ironically, the bridges themselves, which were of the 1950s/60s concrete reinforced design, the bridges held. There was a bit of blasting of the concrete. The challenge actually was the roads either side of the bridges.
The approaches.
Dipped. So we'll need to look at that as well as part of this.
Right. Excellent. Okay, that's your reports.
That's my update on that. Do you want to sit down?
Yes, thank you. I move that the action list be received. Councillor Davidson, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So now we have a presentation. We do. Yes. Thank you.
Right, so just bear with me for 1 minute. So what I intend to do with the presentation is to update community members from the last presentation we did in August. I'll take you through the presentation section by section, looking at different issues, and I'm quite happy to take questions on a slide-by-slide basis, if that will help matters proceed. So if you look at the annual plan projects and works that we've recently completed, first of the list is the Wharf Street Stormwater outlet, which we spoke about 2 minutes or so ago on the actions list. Fox's Glacier Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrade. The Franz Joseph Wastewater Treatment Plant installation of generators. We've done wastewater component upgrades. We've done a flat gate at Particular River. We've done a minor upgrade at Ross Water Treatment Plant. And we've done a stormwater upgrade at the airport.
So I suggested before you move to the next slide, just if there's any questions, Bruce, councillors.
Yes, thank you. Anyone have any questions or issues over those projects?
Just on the Hacklickham River flat gates, are those the outlet pipes that run along?
Yeah, further on, please.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yep.
Thanks, Scott. Carry on.
So in terms of water supply, we're underway with the Fox Glacier Water Treatment Plant upgrade. Total budget is over $1 million, including the TIF funding. On the Arahura Water Treatment Plant establishment, again just short of $500,000 worth. The treatment plant has been constructed and has been installed on site. The commissioning is to be commenced when the Kiwi Rail approve the power connection across their land. That's the only thing that's basically stopping the thing from starting, and there is a wee bit of a delay on getting that approval through. Ross Water Treatment Plant new intake, $75,000. Work programme to start on 24th of January. We've been waiting a bit better weather to transport the equipment. It is expected that we're going to be coming in over budget, and that's resulted in a rescoping of another project to accommodate the money. So obviously we're going to balance the budget as we go through. The Kamara mains replacement, $176,200. 50% is carryover, and that project is completed. The remainder of the carryover project is to commence 14th of February, so next week, and the annual plan element of that is to be scoped out. The Hokitika water mains replacement, $444,000. Hamden Street upgrade initial prices have been received, but that exceeded the budget quite considerably, $910,000. So effectively we've gone back out to market. We were prepared to accept the tender that came in.
Just to comment on it, through your chair, because of the budget constraints, we may reduce the scope of the project to be on a second round of contract reviews. So we'll wait and see how that progresses.
Simon, we were having a survey done at the state of the horizontal infrastructure. That's not, is that part of this?
You'll see that presentation today.
Right.
Okay. And then the Ross water main replacement, $108,000. And this is a portion of this funding is going to cover the overrun of the Ross intake project that we talked earlier on. And the remainder of the funds is being used to upgrade a provider main. So, do you want to go back and take questions on that slide?
Over summer, we've had a couple of full water notices at Fox Glacier.
Yes.
And another at Kamara.
Yes.
They were only precautionary, though, in my understanding. So $1 million that's going to be spent at Fox Glacier, I imagine would rectify any issues there.
We would anticipate that it would. And in relation to Kamara, I have commissioned a piece of work for somebody to come along and have a look at potentially what the issues are around the boil water notices. And there's a detailed report being put together for council that is looking at our performance on water generally, including the numbers of stoppages that we've put into place when we've had broken water mains and had to close systems down, but also addressing the amount of investment that we've put in.
Yes, because I think through the chair, I think that's important to reinforce that to the public.
Yeah.
The amount of investment that's going into this, because it looked a little bit disproportionate, the number of boil water notices that we were suddenly confronted with over summer.
Yeah.
It just happened to coincide with our opposition to the Three Waters reforms. And it didn't look good, but in actual fact, they were only precautionary, and I don't think that it was indicated a fundamental problem with the infrastructure.
No, I was very cautious in terms of the boil water notices, and until from my perspective, quite a prudent stance on that. Because you want to err on the right side of caution with these things. One of the things that I did pick up on, particularly around the notifications that people get about a water close down, is that they can be triggered by a whole range of things, whether it's to do with boil water issues, whether it's to do with water mains, but actually also we've been doing a lot of structured and planned water main replacements. But from the customer's perspective, they just feel that they've got a text and something's going on, just trigger the. So I wanted to set some context for the council on just what has been going on and how it's working and how it's progressing.
The Kamara situation, I understand some of the speculation is that it's probably more to do with underground infrastructure, reticulation.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to the team about the issues with Kamara, and it's not clear in terms of the root causes, which is why we're bringing in somebody who's a specialist in that to have a look at it. Because certainly from our perspective, if we spent the money that we have putting in, improved infrastructure, you wouldn't expect to get the boil water notices that subsequently came from that. I think
it just doesn't seem right, given that we put in pretty much a deluxe sort of new water system there, but of course the water mains in the reticulation is aged.
So there's in future years the upgrade of the reservoir and the infrastructure, the lines as well have to be completed. So whilst we upgrade the plant, still the single components and still to do things.
Yeah, $176,000 isn't about very famous in addressing that, is it?
No, I think the issue is understanding what drives this stuff, because I actually stick up to the same thing that you said, which is we've got board notices at a time when it is a wee bit above the parapet with other issues. And sometimes I wonder whether these events conspire sometimes, because it's just unfortunate timing sometimes with things. And we tend to get more of this kind of thing in the summer. And there's less rainfall and we certainly, some of the other areas where we've had boil water notices, it's been things like sticking tile and throw So again, we're working through and identifying what the issues are, but in particular with Kamara, I want to just to make sure that we don't have anything that we're unexpected.
Just finally on this, so the water mains replacement that's budgeted for here, is this addressing the concern from the fire brigade?
Is this addressing the what?
Concern from the fire brigade?
Well, the issue with the fire brigade was interesting because I had it all tested out. So I had somebody go up and test the water pressure on all the main fire hydrants in Kamara, and they were fully compliant with what's expected for the regulations.
Has that been conveyed to the fire brigade?
It was certainly conveyed out in the press in terms of the response. I don't have a recollection of that. So to be that check.
I think we'll take it as a mention as a follow up.
Just through the chair, just on the Hendon Street replacement for the water. What is that one? Is that a new system? Is it?
No, that's just replacing existing infrastructure. So the existing pipe, underground pipe, takes and chief replacement.
Okay. Thank you.
So we can actually expand or withdraw. So it's not the whole of Hampton Street. Before we did some work last year of Hampton Street, this was the rest of it's completed.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So moving on to the next slide. First item is the Hokitika wastewater treatment plant upgrade. Committee members will be aware of a lot of work that we put together with that partnership with Iwi partners and also through Stantec in terms of the feasibility study. There'll be a later amount that basically talks about the transfer of funding that we put in place because we needed to ensure that we actually spent all the money that had been allotted to us through the Waters funds within the timeline that we've got. So, but as you can see from there, we've got monitoring equipment that we've procured and installed as part of the design process. We're currently awaiting the date of the next meeting, but we have been talking to some of our commercial partners in the area that use with supply as well to make sure that whatever we do doesn't have a negative impact on their business. So we're having some offline discussions with those as well. On the Fox Glacier wastewater treatment plant improvements, that's now done in place. Canary Road catchment and pump upgrade, that project is currently out of price. We'll move forward once we've got that through. And then the Hokitika Z-line replacement, which is $112,000. The initial price received for the work is significantly over budget with that. And again, we've gone back for additional prices. Just as a general comment to the committee, is the market's very tight for contractors, and particularly around water, because everybody is wanting to use the same contractors at the same time. So it is something we're very mindful of as we move this project forward. Right, so questions on that?
Any questions?
Just a comment really that it's probably a forewarning of the budgetary constraints that we're going to be facing with the annual plan, with all of these the contracting costs and going through the roof.
Yeah,
There's not going to be much wiggle room left, and this will ultimately end up in ratepayers' back pockets.
There's also a secondary piece of work that we're doing at the moment, which isn't part of this presentation, which is around the new water regulations that come in July. So we're currently being formally consulted by the regulator on that, and that consultation will end sometime towards the end of March. That will mean then that the new regulations will be in place probably no more than about a couple of months later. Now, there is an impact on us both in capital terms because we're going to have to put new kit in to actually be able to measure a lot of things we need to measure. But there's also an operational impact for us because the volume of water testing that we're going to have to do will increase significantly as well. There's going to be discussions about what we do with chlorination. It's a separate issue that's come down where we've been asked by the Ministry of Health around fluoridation. And then thirdly, there's a notification come out from the Ministry of the Environment about water sourcing. So there's a whole series of things that are coming from different government departments that may or may not be interconnected, that are all getting us at the same time. So we're having to map that out and look at what's the gap and what's the cost implications for us and how do we budget for it moving forward. So the Three Waters team are looking at a whole multiplicity of things. I mean, it's not just water reform.
It's true that there's another big piece that has yet to come to fruition is the revision of the specifications for wastewater discharge, and what that will mean and where that can be and cannot be discharged. So that is yet to surface out of Wellington.
So there's a lot of activity, and you can sort of say positive things about the team that I've got that's working on this. I mean, they're delivering a very comprehensive set of capital works that's come out of the Three Waters programme, and that's not fully finished yet, although as you'll see from this report, it's very much on the way there. At the same time as all this other stuff's coming through, which you can't ignore. So there is a lot of juggling around priorities in terms of taking water.
Is the government going to put its hand in its pocket in relation to any of this?
No, I mean, the issue with the water regulations is that if the Three Waters transfer goes through to the new entities, it's something that will apply to them from 2024, but they're not waiting until 2024 to make you do it. So we're going to have to front up now capital. What that means is we have to take out loan funding to cover the capital works, then that loan funding will then get picked up by the transfer across, so we'll get the money back. And clearly the revenue costs of that will go across to a new entity if it happens. But in the meantime, we're going to have to pick up the cost of that as well.
The arrival of Taumata Arawai is the good part of the Three Waters.
It is.
And but the imposition of all these extra costs is follows a pattern from the government. Same as what they've done with the regional council. They've dumped all these new requirements on the council, and hence we've got a 30+% rate increase in regional rates just to account for the new regulations that have been imposed. And before we know it, we could be faced with the same.
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing as well is we're trying to front end the work on this, because if we were to wait until the end of the consultation period and the issue of the new regulations to then order all the stuff that we need to do as compliant, you'd never be able to deliver it, because the timeline is too short for procurement, and everybody will be going for procurement at the same time, same contractors. So at the moment we're mapping out, we've taken the view that the vast majority of the stuff that's coming out of regulations is going to happen, and we're trying to map it out now to say, okay, when do we need to go to market to get the stuff? But again, it's the finite amount of materials, it's the finite amount of contractors that can do it. And again, as I'll touch on later in this presentation, certainly a lot of stuff that we're looking at has got timeline delays because of the import issues. So it depends on where the ticket's coming from out of the country as to how quickly you can get it.
It's a little bit sobering.
Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't intending to.
We're faced with enough cost increases anyway, and then this extra layer.
I mean, going back to the Taumata Arawai point, is I think everybody has said it's a good thing to have a new regulator. I think the challenge is the timeline you've outlined for it. And we've been asking, we need to formally respond as a council to the consultation in March. But I mean, what we're saying is, can some of this stuff be staged so there's a phased implementation over time? And certainly the online webinar interactive sessions we've had to date volcano said, no, July is July. We've not seen anything yet that says, oh, we don't have to do that until February the following year or whatever. Okay. Next slide. So, moving to the street pump station pipeline upgrade, $1.4 million. Concept plans have been received, final designs underway. We've been working with Stantec on that and looked at a number of different permutations on how we might make it work. And it's been a very positive experience for us in terms of taking things forwards. On the Hokitika Mains replacement, $157,000. The airport portion is completed. The remainder of the funds is going to be allocated to the single stream upgrade. Beach Street realignment, $380,000. Design is currently being rescoped by WSP to fit within the budget. Again, an issue where costs that are coming through are higher than was originally identified. Jolly Street Stormwater extension, $262,000. The replacement of the pipe between Jolly Street and Davy Street, we're still awaiting final prices on that to come through. Anchorage Street pump upgrade. Again, we've said the Wharf Street portion, final part of the project completed in December. And as Councillor Dawson said, it looks to be working very well in terms of recent weather experiences. And then on Sewell Street, Hamish Hamilton Electrical is currently designing and making a new switchboard for that. Any questions? Right. That's a very good photograph over there of the Wharf Street flat. Next slide. Moving on to solid waste away from water, landfill capping at Butlers, central government funding for the new landfill has been utilised to undertake a portion of the work, which is in the project scope, that we're carrying it over to 22-23 financial year. Landfill capping has existing waste cells nearing capacity, and the site inspection project investigation will be carried out this month with an expectation that it will be completed by June. Any questions?
A comment through the chair that thank goodness that we spent that money on Fox Glacier and excavating, the rest of the landfill and then putting that rock frontage along there, because it was a mighty flood in the Fox River. It would have been deja vu.
Right.
So
it was not timely.
Amazing.
It was one of the discussions that we were having with the Nines Defence meeting about what the implications of increased river levels was going to be in relation to the other night, and we had a similar discussion, which was really glad we did it. And no, we're absolutely confident that we're okay now. Thank you.
Yeah. However, it does highlight, I think, the rest of those legacy landfills, and where are we at with that?
So we've just completed some rockwood protection for our area. So that's in situ now, and I'm pretty confident that's going to do it for quite some time. Yeah, so we need to finish a full review on the other ones. We started doing that work, obviously, when the Fox work completed. The Hennis Clearing one's been pulled right back, if you recall, and re-locked. That was done 18 months ago.
That would be the most vulnerable.
That's the most vulnerable one. Our area will be next. The rest are not as great a concern in my mind. Obviously, Canterman's know that friends, if there's major work in regards to releasing the water to the south side of the natural, we consider that.
It's got to go first, doesn't it?
So it's quite a significant expense in terms of relocating that, if you do that. Thank you.
So in terms of leisure services, Hokitika Cemetery upgrade and expansion for the Muslim development earthworks are complete and pricing received to realign the current walkway. We are awaiting design and operational procedures for the community. That's due for completion at the end of March. Lake Canary Stage 1, $160,000. Trail is complete and operational pending the official opening. So we're basically waiting to sort of use the tag before we can.
So, fortunately, we're working with a couple of landowners in terms of easements. We've had some struggles completing that negotiation process. We had a solution prior to Christmas, which we put to one of the landowners, and we're expecting them to sign it off, but they haven't yet. So still waiting for that process to be completed.
And on the cemetery rebuild, 3-bay pole shed and workshop, construction's been begun on site, poles were erected. There has been some difficulty in securing supplies, but we are anticipating completion for April 22. And then Custom House, budget confirmed, contractor awarded the works to repile the building, and the construction is anticipated to start this month. We have one or two issues around consenting requirements, which are delaying things, but so far it's looking positive.
Just to highlight that we're really grateful to Hokitika for the lorries application. They were successful in planning about $35,000 to go towards this project.
I'm surprised that the piles are shot in the custom house. I mean, that was rebuilt there by former Mayor Henry Pearson. He was a builder.
Okay.
It wasn't that many years ago, but it was shifted there.
Yeah, I can't comment on that, to be honest. But,
I thought it was sold as a rock.
Well, it's more than likely that they probably use the silver pine post, keeping authentic thing and all that sort of stuff. If they used treated timber, it would still be okay.
We're basically relying on the feedback from the builders to provide us that detail, so we, based on their prognosis. Okay.
in terms of the Hokitika beachfront development, Sunset Point parking, new location has been found to avoid conflicts with existing users. Similar parking areas planned for the new Beach Street location. There is a drawing on there which is possibly a little bit small for people to see, but maybe when the actual document comes out in the electronic form, you can have a look at that. Concept plan has been developed and construction documentation is being developed at the moment for tendering. And then beach access at the end of Well Lane, which is TIF funding. Site plans developed, alternative design being developed for the ramp access. The original costs that came out was too high, so I've asked for that to be reworked. And we're liaising with different contractors to come out with the best solution. And both sets of work will be scheduled so that we can align the construction together. Quite happy for thoughts on that.
Just this one, this is all gone through the planning committee. This,
I don't know whether it has been through.
Is this all new then?
Yeah,
This is part of the TIF funding application we made 6-7 months ago. We were successful in getting funding for. The original concept of putting parking down beside the fire practice area, we've basically decided that it's not the best location. We're proposing to relocate it to the top end of the Beach Street area. I think that house there is Mark Davies' house. To optimise some camper van parking area, just for day parking only, not obviously not free camping.
So what are we looking at there, that plan, Scott? It's very hard to work out what that is.
So I think what we should do is, it hasn't been tabled, it's a final design plan yet. I haven't even seen this today.
So what we can do is we can show you something that's more structured and let people have a look at it.
That is where we won't go.
Yeah, I think this is just a drawing that's been dropped in to give an indication of the things that we're looking at.
So I suggest that we do an official, as an action, official report to the planning ready to the beachfront final design to get it endorsed.
Yep, thank you. Yep. And again, just in terms of giving an overview of the Waits and Island development, it's a project that we're collaborating with a number of other different parties, with including the West Coast Regional Council and DOC. It's linked in to the work that's going on. Lots of the rules areas, there's a dog park involved. And what we want to do is to give us a broader experience for people in that area. Simon's been quite involved in the other sides of this. It's actually a really good indication of what you can do when you work in partnership.
So the funding for this is coming from Jobs for Nature. The dog park, we have some funding in our existing plan budget for creating a zone for dog park, so incorporating both together works very well. Obviously, the White Bay Sanctuary Stage 1 project has been completed. This is the extension for a Stage 2 project. And what we're looking to do is also enhance the cycleway to go through that area to connect closer to nature as part of that customer experience, visitor experience.
Is it being spelled Waits?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
I think it doesn't look right.
Yeah,
Should have an ear.
it's spotted delivery mistake. That's the person who signed off the presentation, so apologies for that. I think it's a typo rather than a spelling issue.
I think the minister was going to spell it a bit differently too.
Okay. Anything else on that one? So in terms of the lighting upgrades, so Tambo lighting went in, it looked really good, seemed to get a positive response. We've got the anchor that's been reinstalled.
Just one point on the anchor.
Yeah.
The chain is sitting at Charlotte's place, which needs to be relocated as well.
I should take that away as an action point.
I've asked her to talk to Simon here.
So chain for anchor. Okay. Heritage area lighting has been installed, well ferry lights have been extended, the new poles and lights and banners on Wall Street were put in, and
Hideous things.
sorry,
Hideous.
what the poles?
They've disappeared in it. They'll be painted.
Hmm?
They've disappeared in another dark colour.
Chainsaw would fix it.
Carnegie building lighting has been ordered. The leading time for getting lights, we've been chasing them for an update, but effectively it's 5 months from the point of order. So we ordered them before Christmas. We're trying to find out whether they're coming any quicker or whether there's a delay on that under there. Pioneer statue lighting has also been ordered, and again it's a similar issue in terms of how long it's taken for us to get stuff through. Clock tower was interesting. In the original concept of clock tower was to come from underneath and to light it with coloured lights bottom up. What we found when we started to look into that is that we would have to mess around with the structure to actually sort out cabling, and we really don't want to be messing around with the structure. So we've got the discretion as the better part of power, so we're actually going to go from the top. And we're going to drop coloured lights in from the lighting from the top down rather than bottom up. we've been, the actual lights for that are a 1 week delivery from Australia, and then the contractor has said it takes them about another week to get them installed. So actually that could be quite quick once we press the button. So the issue is just getting, we had to redesign the concept in terms of that. But there's been I'm quite pleased with the amount of movement that we've had on lighting, given the point at which we started discussing it, which was probably about 5-6 months ago. So we have moved quite positively on that. The other issue that we've got, of course, is we've got the flag traps in there. So people will recall the season's greeting stuff that went up. That's worked. It's going to be utilised for a whole range of different activities. So unfortunately, some of the activities we wanted to use them for had to be postponed because of the COVID. Paki Waitera project, and we were having a discussion prior to this meeting actually with the project managers for that. We've now got a very, very early stage concept design for how you would utilise it in the main as a library facility. And that picks up other aspects of how we would deal with the children's area within the library, amongst other things. So those documents have come in. We've had a preliminary meeting with the project managers and said, in the main, yes, we're in general terms happy with the outline. The TC is going to go away and talk to our library team and just say, okay, does it do what you think ought to be done with it? And then we'll feedback from that to the architects to then firm it up a wee bit further. What I've said to the team in relation to that building is it's got to be kept within watertight. If we're going to do any substantive work, you don't want to spend huge amounts of money to then finally rip it out again. So it's very much about ensuring that the building is dry and safe as far as reasonably practical. We won't be spending significant money on it until we've decided where it's going. We've got approval from council to go with it. Happy to take questions.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Regarding the lighting of the town clock, so he say that it's going to be coloured lighting.
Yes.
Has that been tested with any?
It was certainly something that came back as a recommendation when we had the thing looked at about 5-6 months ago. The recommendation was to get coloured lighting on it. In terms of have we actually shone any lights on it to look at how that feedback, I need to talk to the team as to what we're looking at with it. But we had a meeting, like Simon and I, with somebody who was looking at how that was all to be designed in the early stage of this.
The lighting could be magnificent, or it could be really garish, but
I'm hoping for the former.
yes.
But I take your point. And yes, we do need to make sure that we don't put money into to create carbon. So yeah, I should take that on board.
The Carnegie building lighting, was that up lighting for that, was it? So that was just a straight.
Yeah, I can't recall if we carried on with the concept regarding similar to what we did at Armistice Day, having the ability to project imagery onto the Carnegie building. So
I mean, certainly the message that I've got on it is whatever we do has to be consistent with the heritage nature of the building. So I can't do that.
there was the original concept to enable it to be a consistent a theme or being able to rotate through various themes.
I can come back on that and get more detail on what we're doing with that. Okay, move on. Thank you. So we're into BGF projects. So the Fox landfill removal to Butlers we were talking about earlier on. Landfill extraction remediation portion was completed in April 2021. I think we gave it a good testing the other night. So that's positive. The construction of the new waste landfill site at Butlers, which is 2 million, designing consenting to complete. Construction's underway. Again, we've had issues around material shortage and COVID impacts, but we're working to an expected completion of April 22.
Very fortunate funding application, this one. Once again, just reiterating Foxland for it's always dead money when you have to pick up rubbish from one place and put it to another place. So thankfully the ratepayers have to pay for this.
Yeah, and we got a dispensation actually on making sure they didn't actually charge us again for landfilling, even though it was moving it from one site to another, because technically they could have done that, which would cost us a lot of money.
This is the waste levy fees, so they waive those for us as well.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
So, Arctic swimming pool. Stage 1 done. Pool's open. I touched just before the meeting around the palm trees in front. So we have an arboriculturist booked in for the end of February, and we've been told we will have the prices for the heavy lifting by the end of the week. We've been told that February is the month to do it. So that will be moving ahead, and I took a call about that just before this meeting started. Again, just before the meeting started, we had a notification through from our project managers about phase 2. So it's anticipated that phase 2 will take about 3 months in terms of actually having to physically close the pool. So in principle, we've said actually that's acceptable to us. We've had a response from Destination Westland that said yes, that's something that they are quite happy to accept. So where we go from here is we want a bit more detail in terms of what does it actually mean in terms of the timeline for things. There are certain things that we can actually do that preempt the closure of the pool, so we could do some work outside prior to that without actually disturbing things too much and without actually having to close the pool down, which will then mean we could connect things once that's going ahead. So the pool is working without wishing to tap out. The pool timetable is working positively. And just in terms of feedback to the committee, and I remember a conversation that we had when the initial tenders came through for phase 1, because if you recall, some of the initial tenders that came in were higher than the estimated budget. I think council's quite clearly and rightly said, I do hope this is not symptomatic of the project in total, the answer is no, it wasn't. So we're coming in pretty much on the budget that we have for phase 1. Right. And actually one of the things that we've done with this is, because of the logistics of how we manage the project, some phase 2 stuff will go forwards, because there's a correlation. You couldn't just treat them as isolated phases. There's a correlation between them. So that has worked out extremely well for us as well. So there will be a detailed post-completion report coming to council that says, this is what we said we were going to do, this is how we said it was going to do it, this is actually what happened. So you can have a look and form your own views. So in terms of so that's how we take it. Carnegie Building, we are very close to the end now of Carnegie. We are in the process of looking at parapets. So you may recall that there was a discussion around the parapets and how they were constructed and what we could do. When we delved into them, they turned out to be made out of polystyrene with a coating over the top of them. So we're actually having them in design terms rather than like for like, so they're going to look the same. The material that's the substrate to the external fascia will be a resin-based product, which will then treat to match the rest of the building. There's a couple of issues that we've had around the structural reinforcing of the pillars in terms of the civil engineering bits. So we're doing a piece of work on that, but that aspect of it might complete slightly later than the rest of the project, but not by much time at all. And then the only final thing which I was discussing with the chief executive earlier is there is a delay on a particular piece of material, which is a structural support. So it's basically a large steel cable that goes across the building to tie into the walls, and you put it together and it secures it. Again, it's about import timetable, so we may lose a couple of weeks or so around that. But nothing that is going to substantively impact on what we're trying to do in the next phase. And as far as the lottery funding is concerned, we've spent money after we've signed it off. So that will come to a final conclusion probably around about March time.
Fantastic, long last.
Yeah, I mean, what's really quite constructive for me, I do feel a bit of a cheat actually, because I've come in on loads of projects that other people have started and they're kind of finishing on my watch, so I can get this kind of a nice rosy glow for something that I've not really done. But you know.
And shake it while it's going.
Well, I'm sure if it all went the other way, if it went south, it would happen.
That's right.
So yeah.
So just to cover off some additional work that Carol Ryan, our New Zealand director, is doing. So she's actually applying for lotteries for a number of elements to start fitting out the Canadian building. So that's going to lotteries in March, the second phase of that. So some exhibition work and some sculpture garden work. So she's taking a lead on putting that concept together.
How much are we looking at?
Oh, I haven't seen the detail. She's just
Through the chair, just on these swimming pool, when they close it down for upgrade work in the winter, just roughly how long do they normally close it for? So,
usually about 6 weeks from my recollection.
and roughly
around June, July.
So
the target dates I think we've agreed to is the last week in June through to September.
Yeah.
For the 3-month closure.
Yeah. So
it's not too far off what would be a typical shutdown. But yeah, probably another 6 weeks on top of that.
Can we sort of advise the people that use it?
So
I've got to do a full consultation with affected parties. We'll do a press release in terms of how we're going to do it. I mean, as I said earlier on, it really is kind of hot off the press information. It literally came in about half an hour before this presentation, so I was just keeping you up to speed on where we're at. We just got to firm up the timeline.
Yeah, sure. The sooner the users, know that and the reasons why, the better.
Yeah, and it allows people to plan. And part of the challenge that we had on phase 1 was around law of unintended consequences, where things happen, which means you think you've got a handover date then, and it then comes then, and I think people get a bit agitated about anyway. I can upset that because they're trying to plan at their end as well.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah.
can I ask through the chair where we're at with the restoration of the centre?
The centre for the exec day.
The canopy was removed. And
it was.
Foundations were supposed to have been strengthened. I understood, but I haven't seen any work on it.
No, the last conversation I had with my team, which was about a week ago, I need to go back, was that the person that we'd expected to do the work has come back and said they can't hit the timeline. So we're currently talking to other parties about doing it, and I just need to follow that up to ensure that that is actually moving ahead.
It is disappointing that they are the ones that provided the pricing and everything for us to be successful at the lotteries at Passion, which we actually were successful at. And then I suppose too far out, not too far out in terms of execution. They've told us that they aren't available because of other commitments. But we are working with them to actually see if they can still come to the party. So it is early days, but the target is to have it done before Anzac Day still. It's going to be pretty tight.
Okay,
So
that's still the target.
But it's still the target.
Yeah, that's good. That was a useful prompt, actually. Thank you. Am I okay to move on? Just an update on where we're at with the different halls. Been doing a lot of work on the town halls, and they'll be complete by the end of the financial year. And I can go through them individually if you like, or I can take questions on it. I suppose the issue that we do have is we've got a couple of them where when we started delving, we found additional things that we're doing, which are more substantial. So we'll have a look at how we did on those. Move on to the next slide. Again, it's town halls, a lot of activity, but again, mostly complete, with just small bits and pieces to finally nail them. Again, I'll move on to the next slide if there's any questions. Jackson's Bay Wharf. We had a detailed presentation and video from contractor to council, must be 3 months ago. It was longer than that. I was out on site at Jackson's Bay about 3 weeks ago, out in the boat, having a look at underneath of it. So, in substantive terms, the work that we asked them to do is done. So the actual wharf, the access way to the wharf is completed, and that significant structural timber that we were talking about that needed replacing has now been replaced. Moving ahead for us, we now need to be looking at what we're going to do with the rest of that. I think the general view is we can't just stop where we've stopped because there's remedial work that needs doing to the main structure, although that doesn't stop the structure being used at the moment. So we're currently looking at a series of options about how we may take that forwards. From my perspective, I'm quite happy to be challenged in this, is whatever we do, I don't think we should shut the wharf to do it, because I think we shut it for long enough. I think there will be some community pushback. If we said great news, we're going to shut it again. So whatever we decide to do, we need to phase it so that we do part of the wharf and then complete it, and the other part of the wharf complete it, so that it can actually be fully utilised most of what's going on. But that will be subject to proper engineering reports and expert advice. But certainly what we need to do with it is to identify how we're going to fund it, when we're going to fund it, who we're going to do with it. Conversation I had with the contractor on site is they were able to make it more economically viable for us by buying used timbers that have been taken out of the wharfs elsewhere that we pulled out. And the actual materials came in at half the cost of what would have been rebuilt new. And they were saying to us that there might be options to get their hands on additional materials of the same type. So I've asked them to go away and do that. And then we'll need to take a view as to at what stage we can move ahead with the next stage of this.
Just a couple of questions here on the
what would be the potential sort of risk do you see if you kept it open?
For what, sorry?
You're saying that you'd like to keep it open.
Well, we'd have to make a formal assessment.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the size, then what you think is what would be good to do if you could to close part of it off and still utilise all bits of it. I would say that probably the question of risk would be around what I describe as the interconnected nature of the timber work. So does the totality of the structure hold it together so we take part of it off, it weakens the rest of it? So that'll be an issue that we'll need to look at. And then there'll be questions around health and safety, around making sure that people don't go onto a work site and fall off the edge or whatever with it. Yeah. So we would need to take proper advice on the risk assessment with that. It's just my preference if we have is not close it if it's all possible.
Yeah, and the other question, Scott, is that from past experience, upgrading and old structures like old bridges and stuff like that. And one of the biggest costs is the labour content, getting machinery in, cranes and whatever. So, using second-hand timbers as opposed to new timbers, you've got to look at how long they're going to last.
Yeah, so and they need to be fit for purpose. I mean, again, the conversations I've had with the contractor that we used was, I basically said to him, look, what is your prelim setup cost? Yeah. Because what you don't want to do is have them on site, take them away, have them on site, take them away. What you need is once they're there. They rented a unit for staff to stay in while they were working. They've continued that, so that's going to continue to be used. What they've said is the main piling equipment is not a big cost to have brought down and take away, because it literally is take it down and use it. The issue that was quite interesting is when you get into a discussion about how we actually took the piles out and dealt with them, so they actually removed them from underneath, because they're really conscious that they don't go in from the top. So there was a mechanism, and there was a discussion actually about what the individual unit cost is per pile, which I'm not going to discuss in an open forum because it's commercially sensitive, but there is a significant cost of doing that. So yeah, but labour cost would be a fair component.
And we did have the contractor in here give us a brief on a proposed there. That was quite good, and I suppose it wouldn't hurt for him to come in again and give us an update.
Work between now and then for us to confirm the process and how we would replace it. So there's a number of ways to skin this cat. So I would rather just wait till the engineering team confirmed a proposed layout and scope of work, so that we can actually understand it.
Okay, sure.
And the full pricing as well.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Because we haven't committed yet to.
We've got a year for the annual plan, about $2 million a year for the LGP, which is to finish the work. So it's in the budget. Yeah.
Of course, it was always going to be this way, though, wasn't it, when the government funded half a job?
So obviously our appetite is for external funding or another mechanism for it to be paid by someone else. So there's other opportunities to explore at the moment, which we're doing.
Users. It's new users. Well, it's commercial asset out there for the users, and they're getting it to Scotland. Yeah. And that doesn't seem right. Yeah.
No. That's a hoary old chestnut, though, isn't it?
That's
Yeah, no. Right, okay. So we talked about footpaths. We recall the presentations that we've done to council on the footpath proposal. Just to talk briefly about Cross Street car park extension, project budget 300,000. It's near completion, final base course placement, shaping, has been carried out prior to chip sealing of the entire project. The final completion date has been extended out to 28th of February as a result of the bad weather. We are anticipating that will be completed and put it to bed. I'll keep going.
Good.
Okay. The footpath full works plan is now with contractors to schedule with a waiting programme start date that aim to complete the works before the end of the financial year. And there's a large element of this that sits within the framework of the new roading contract, which is good. We're going to be doing about 4.3 kilometres of footpath across the district, and we're trying to get within the first part of the programme a fair spread of footpaths across the district.
If you recall the presentation from regarding the priority project, so this is obviously phase one of those priority one projects. And that'll continue over the next 3 years.
And on top of the project budget that's there, there's also additional money that's sat in the operational budget as well, which is on there, which is for maintenance.
You'll see also in there some of the resolutions for some areas presentation that you provided as part of the LTP.
So I can move on to the next slide if people are okay with that.
Yep, thank you.
So in terms of transportation work in progress, we've got the Canary pedestrian cyclist crossing installation and intersection layout change. So the crossing footpath is installed and waiting start of school so we can commission it. The intersection reformation is set to begin within the next 2 weeks. We're still awaiting a date from contractor Henry Adams, and obviously that's been impacted by recent bad weather. And then the project will be complete when we actually have got the road finally resealed. And again, the start date for that subject to weather. Old Christchurch Road. I think as we indicated in previous council meetings, the budget has been pretty much spent now. We've been dealing with sort of minor tidying up areas at the end of it. Sealing's been completed to Van Beek's Farm, with some tidying to be carried out on the remaining 2.3 kilometres for section 2. The remaining sections of the road have been surveyed, and some design carried out. This will be completed and costed out in preparation for any further funding opportunities. So effectively, we want to have something on the shelf that we can pull out if somebody becomes available externally for this. So the original start date for the project was the 25th of November 2020, and the original end date was the 30th of June 2021. Clearly, we've had that project delayed, but as indicated earlier, we're due to finally complete by the end of this month. And then just on the road and maintenance contract, this went officially live on the 1st of December 2021. I have got my first full contract meeting of that and a whole range of other contract meetings associated with main contractor starting tomorrow morning. So we'll be having our preliminary discussions about how that's starting to work out. The big challenge when you let new contracts on new terms to existing contractors is it would be things just the same as the old contract. So you've got to drop in a whole series of new behaviours. So we need to get that embedded. Upcoming work, resealing of the carriageway as well as road marking, Cauldron Creek bridge replacement, footpath renewals, Hass Jackson Bay resilience improvements. And then we're presently in negotiations with Occupy over the deferral of the Harrow Road Guideway project, which is something that Simon and I were talking about yesterday, because we're wanting to replace that with the school crossing west of the high school and Street. And the view that we've got is actually the school crossing probably ticks my boxes for what we could tie in the Galway project. So we're not anticipating any difficulties in getting that transferred across. And the concept design investigation was done already. It's been by the paper. So if I recall rightly, that was a request that came from councillors just to address that.
As part of the ultimate conversations as well.
Again, moving to the next slide.
I just see the contractor on the community history there. Start date subject to weather. We've had a fairly good spell.
Yeah,
So Henry Adams is now a subcontractor of the main contractor.
Yeah.
But it came down to primarily resourcing.
So cool.
Out of the old Christchurch Road, do we really think the government's going to conjure up some more dough?
This extra section is currently in the resealed current allocation budget, isn't it?
yeah, but I think we're talking about the rest of that whole stretch down to where it joins with the rivers. I think the short answer is at the moment probably no.
No, I think that's.
I think I'm not inclined to agree with that. I mean, it's not. I'm not sat there thinking it's going to happen, but at the same time, I think one, you've got to plan for these things just in case it does, and two, if we then decide that we want to invest our revenue at some stage, you've got a basis of planning for it. But it's not something that we're imminently expecting to happen.
Because again, it's another case of the government paying for half a job, leaving the rest of the job undone. And it's unfortunate that it's a great, what's been done is great. But it's really unfortunate that they left the trickiest part undone. The hilly corrugated.
It's fair to say, yes, when we applied for the funding, it was an estimate. So some of the false outs in terms of understanding the forecast and doing it right to the very through to the state highway. So,
I mean, if I can mitigate, and I wasn't there at the time, but if I can mitigate, that's really, really difficult when you're given a very tight timeline to sort of come up with a whole series of projects. And certainly from my conversations with government bodies, is actually we've really performed well compared to other councils. And we're not being pressed to, have you spent this yet, have you spent that, have you? So I mean, I cheekily said to the government, if you've got somebody else who hasn't spent that money, can we have it? And they very politely came back and said no. But it was, there is a shortfall in the local authority. What they've done, I understand, is take a shortfall and decide to restore it back to their main budgets.
Yeah, and in the defence of the people that priced it, planned it, what they've done out there is there was a lot of low-lying areas that was flooding, and they've built those areas up. They've done a real fantastic job out there. So it's a good job, good quality job. So
as far as it goes.
Pardon?
As far as it goes, it is.
Yeah, that's right. And it's far better doing it that way than just cutting corners and doing the whole lot and completing the job that's a bit shotty.
It's a really delicate balance bidding for funding where somebody can say no as to how you actually pitch it, because you don't want to pitch it so you can't finish it, but you don't want to over pitch it so you then come back and you can't do the projects because it's too expensive. So it's more of an art form than exercise and some of the stuff.
A lot of sort of cut and fill there, Paul, and putting the fill in those low-lying areas, building it up. It costs a lot of money, and that said they've done a fantastic job.
Well, I'll take it.
It is unfortunate though that we've missed out as a result of this, have missed out on the hairiest part of the road, that hill. Anyway.
No,
Okay, moving on.
right, okay, thank you. So moving on to 10 projects. Cass Square development. So Cass Square toilets, $191,500 worth of TIF funding, contribution from the BBC of $84,000. Ground surveying has been completed on site at Cass Square. Toilet units have been ordered in the same design as both Hast and Franz Joseph, because I think it was you, Paul, who said you were concerned about the colour of some of the other toilets that we've got in the district, so they're replicating.
Sunset Point.
I was going to name them. And then the local building contractors are going to be contracted to install the unit. Pricing has been requested for the supply and installation of 2 e-bike chargers as part of the project. So the next phase of it is getting consents. Just as a sort of general comment in terms of something that didn't hit the presentation, on playground equipment, Kamara, we've got the new slide was installed last week. We've actually got a meeting with the playground supplier tomorrow in regards to a particular in Cass Square. And from that, we're going to discuss the best feature feeds for the site and get some finer details established on what we need to be ordering for that. So that's another hot off the press.
Just to touch on that, so we should actually want to bring that to the planning committee meeting.
Yeah.
Because there may be an expectation to have a workshop around that final design based on the types of equipment we're looking at.
Right, okay. Short action that. Playground at Wastewater construction is booked to start on the 4th of April. Ross, as people are aware, is on hold because the Ross community said we don't want playground equipment in that favourite place. So we're looking at how we shift the funding around or find a way of funding more footpath works from the money that we would otherwise have used for playgrounds. It's not a straightforward exercise because the designated for completely different things. So we're currently looking at how to deal with that. At House, the funding is spent. We've ordered finally ordered some bark to replace the existing bark that's there. The community is going to install this as part of the work they're doing on the bike track. So that's just as in stuff that's come out. On the additional things that's on the slide in front of you, as you can see, public toilets, ground surveying has been completed on site, toilet design received and approved, and we've ordered the toilets. 25% deposit has been put down. Franz Joseph car parking area and also Jackson Bay visitor parking is currently ongoing. Franz Joseph bit's currently out of tender. Jackson Bay, we're developing the tender documents. And one of the things that we're kind of exploring that links to what you were saying earlier on is how do you monetize it? In terms of how to get people to pay for parking, can you get them to charge? How do we actually, once we finish the fully finish the wharf, is there a way of recovering money from the use of the wharf? Because a lot of the users are actually leisure users, they're not fishermen in the commercial sense.
And not ratepayers either.
No, and one of the issues that we've been thinking around, it literally just conceptual stuff that there's a new cell tower that's done for the location. So is there a way of using cell technology to find a way of charging people for it? So we just need to explore that. Historically, having somebody on site to try and collect them has worked. In fact, people have got quite touchy over it. So,
I'd be very pleased if you could find a way to start charging, because those bludgers have had their own way for a long time.
Just whereabouts is the image? Sorry, whereabouts is the image of those toilets?
I think that looks to me to be a digital image. So I don't think that's
Example.
but that's an artist's
Thank you.
impression. But
That's right.
looks really realistic.
Certainly not probably. So through the chair, the toilets are great. I mean, Care Square ones, it's terrific. That's going to make such a difference. But the Paringa one, for instance, is who's going to maintain them?
The local.
Yes, but ultimately, who's going to pay for the maintenance?
But yeah, I see. So any maintenance requirements are coming to council.
Yes. And who, yeah, okay. But which, of course, then comes back to the point of who's the benefit.
So this part of this is obviously providing facilities further south and where they stop in terms of council assets. It's a big gap between the last lot of toilets.
Toilets at Jamie Creek. No?
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Jamie Creek.
Stop.
Yeah, dock toilets at Jamie Creek. Lake Paringa.
It's quite a significant, obviously, responsible camping ground that we've established at Paringa now.
It's an oxymoron, but
Yeah.
yeah.
You can't circle that.
I am somewhat on the phone with that. Yeah, okay. I mean, no issue with the Care Square ones, but these remote toilets are fine insofar as they're free, but they're not free at the end of the day, are they? Because they're going to be a cost on the ratepayers to continually maintain them.
We're hoping very much.
Dirty toilets are the last thing we want. So they have to be well maintained. That's going to cost money.
I think last three summers, we've had funding for freedom camping activities, including servicing of toilets and also for enforcement, signage, etc., and the establishment of those areas. As council is aware, there's no funding this year because of the downturn in tourism. But we're anticipating that some funding will come back next summer with the opening of the borders to cover these sorts of activities.
Yes, although the Minister of Tourism was pretty clear that he's not going to entertain a return to the over-tourism that we had. So it's a reshaped tourism is what they'll be
Well, he has said that, but there's nothing to back up.
I'm not sure. True. That's true.
It's a 2.5 license.
So we certainly don't want to return to
No.
people throwing a mattress in the back
That's yeah, they
of
got
a station wagon and sitting on the road.
So roughly how many toilets do we maintain? Simon?
Quite a few.
Okay.
If you look at the LTP presentation that we provided, it's quite comprehensive all the way down to us.
With respect, the ones in the townships, Harry and whatever, they're fine. I don't have a problem with funding those ones, but these more remote ones, I think there should be a rethink myself.
Yeah, it's interesting in terms of the timing of this discussion, because it was only this morning that I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues about how these remote toilets and toilets generally are actually dealt with in terms of cleaning, contracting, which ones are things that we actually provide services for, which ones are things the community provide services for, which are things that we pay out grant for. And we're currently going through it all and identifying where we're at with each one, and looking at service standards as well as part of that. So
That would be interesting. Just really check to see that report as to how much each of these toilets are costing.
just through the chair, I think it sort of shows a strong partnership with the Department of Conservation, where the Western District Council and the department sort of have a number of toilets along this beautiful coastline, and where people can get out there and enjoy the experience and use those facilities. So it's working together, and I think it's a good culture.
Bear in mind, I think a lot of these points came under pressure during, I suppose, a big tourism season. You know, with the ones we put in Bruce Bay, that was a really high hotspot in terms of visitor numbers. Obviously, that's down to quite considerable since COVID's coming along. But we're building infrastructure, obviously, for a review and hopefully a re-energized tourism to be over the next 3 to 4 5 years.
The Bruce Bay one is an exception, I would imagine, to these other remote toilets, because it's still Bruce Bay is still a magnet for travellers. Not necessarily the backpacking types, but everyone stops there and they're all looking for a toilet. So that one's not in the same category, I think, as some of these others.
And they're good toilets too.
They are good toilets, and but I do hope that this partnership with the Department of Conservation is a two-way street. I can't expect the council to provide the loos and they just provide the infrastructure for
Well, no, I don't think so. I think the Hokitika Gorge is probably a real prime example of that, where they share it and it works well. And perhaps even iwi sort of come on board with it. You know, it really works really well.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, could you move me on 2 slides, please? This seems to have stopped. Sorry?
Would you like to try?
So cycle trail project, sorry? Yeah, great. So I'll take you through cycle trail projects. So Milltown Shelter, MB $83,000 with funding matched by us. MOUs are signed by the site fenced. The local contractor has installed large rocks to form a safe barrier on the riverside. So we've got curb shelter, bike racks, picnic table have all been ordered. We're expecting them to be arriving in place March, April time. Taramaka major maintenance, $50,000 with our funding. Paul Smith contractors engaged to sort out ongoing trail slumbering and enlarged car park, create drainage, and we're relocating a small shelter there that's currently at Milltown. Renewing Jacks being completed under the Milltown budget, and we've liaised with DOC to extend the current car park. Toilets have been ordered, yet to be installed.
More toilets.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I thought I'd move on from toilets.
So just to point out, the recommended toilet breaks on the cycleways every 10 kilometres. Obviously, we don't do that in our cycle trail. It's about 100 kilometres long, different to 10 toilets. So we have targeted positions, probably around 30 to 40 minutes ride between each toilet. New ones at Milltown Shelter, because Cowboy Paradise don't want to service the cycleway riders with toilets. So, and also we want to better liaison with the operators in terms of drop-off location. So our one's just on the southern side of the Milltown Bridge, just down from Cowboy's Paradise.
So moving on, the Manipur viewing platform doesn't have funding, so we're not going to be proceeding with that at this stage.
So that's not quite accurate. There is funding in the annual plan budget for that. We were chasing external funding to complement that. So there is funding in our annual plan. Sorry.
Apologies for that. Okay. The board works
through the chair that project won't be going ahead though without co-funding.
Of the outcut funding. no.
Yes, so that's correct, where it says it's not going ahead.
Currently not going ahead, so we're still trying to find further funding.
Yes, right.
I think we were both right in our own way. On boardwalks, there were outline pre-contract conditions that we put in place. We were awaiting a response from DOC in terms of support. That arrived, I think it was beginning of this week, or the end of last week. So it's now waiting for me to go back to it. We're going to have to revise the contract dates because of the timeline it's taken for us to get what we need now. Can't hit the timetable we need to, so I'm going to get that changed. The Canary Waterways bridge repairs, we've effectively, it's at very preliminary stages, we've identified the staff to do it, and we'll do the investigation and design. Try this again. Any questions? Press the button to see what it works. Okay. We're now heading towards the tail end of the presentation. Three Waters Reform Stimulus Funding. A lot of work gone on with that, a lot of money that's been invested by the government in it. In terms of the actual things that we've been doing, there's a lot of things that are completed. Water Mains, Harry Water Mains, Francis Joseph Water Mains, Fox Glacier Water Mains is pretty much completed. Water Mains bit's done, it's the statement that we're just finalising. Care Road Fox is done. Past Water Mains replacement, again, the water bit's done, it's just the statements afterwards that we're technically enough. And the Harry New Reservoir is complete with a connection programme this week. Well, it says week commencement, so because I avoided saying yesterday in case you said something to do with that. So a lot of stuff. What we need to do is make sure that next time we come to the session to get the things that have been done now, not on the list of the month.
Just ask where we got through with the Harold Creek.
Harold Creek is waiting for me to write to the residents, so I'm going to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we were waiting for the outcome of the ROI new legislation to enable us to confirm the gaps between what we had and what we needed. So now we have that solid evidence from very say this is now required to be disconnected once we have a new solution in place. So we'll have to put that in the end, we're paying for budgeting, we're paying for the budget to put in new tanks for the local residents. Which has to be a targeted rate, which has to go through the independent process. Yes.
Okay, moving on.
Here we are. Again, a lot of projects complete on this one. Wastewater mains replacement to the past, France Wastewater and Fox Wastewater are all complete. The new septage is Fox Past are on site and just waiting for installation. Wastewater CCTV networks have been done, there's a lot of activity on that. And again, Stormwater CCTV, France Joseph network completed, and the Hokitika network is ongoing. But again, we're programmed for completion in February, and we're meeting with the contractor earlier on today. So there's a big push to make sure that we complete everything by the end of March anyway. So we reckon we're going to be something like 96 to 98% complete by the end of March, with two projects that could then move to June, which we'll add to because they've been extended. So
great photos too. The team.
Sorry, do you want to go back?
Quite talented and good photos.
And then my final slide. is a less artistic photograph.
So many.
His worship's woken up.
So the Transgenic wastewater CCTV is completed. Optic wastewater CCTV again will be end of Feb. Generators are on site and programmed to be in by the end of February. That was a difficulty. Trying to get the contractor to actually do the installation has taken some time. Again, as we said before, because everybody was buying generators, everybody wanted the same contractors to install them. House wastewater pump station upgrade, again, programmed for mid-late February. Telemetry upgrades completed. Security cameras were programmed for mid-Feb. The feasibility study, I need to confirm the next meeting day with Stantec, but it needs to be quite soon. So I should run with that as action from this meeting. The rock work at Hast, we dealt with and got in, and that was a refunding movement from one of the other projects. The infiltration gallery is recovered, just now waiting a geotech report from Stantec. And again, that was funding. And then finally, the Stantec 10 Bellies stormwater pipes on site. So we've got about $500,000 worth of concrete pipes that are waiting to go in the ground. So again, that money that we took from the wastewater treatment plant said it needs to go there, and people said, "Are you going to spend it?" And said yes, because we've managed to get that in. So that really concludes the presentation as far as it goes today. And I'm quite happy to take the questions.
Any final questions or queries? That's
Just one question I have. It's not a question. I like to be in action. It's just the Manipur Walkway, the new upgrade of that boardwalk. One of the reasons why they put it in, because it was too narrow.
Yeah.
But the key to it is that it's about 700 mils above the water, and you could build it. We built the boardwalk without any barriers,
Right.
but because it floods there, it needs to be a lot higher now,
Right.
and therefore it probably be over a metre above the water. Therefore, the whole design thing would probably need, handrails on either side. So it's a key point to get the height right, because when it does flood, that's when the visitors go up the main highway, and that's where there's a risk to the cyclists. That's all.
Okay.
is that designed into the present proposal?
No, I don't know.
I don't know. I've made it as a note to go away and have a look.
Yeah, thank you.
So stage one was to do design and work, and
Yeah.
engineering work.
Yes.
This was hopefully we're going to be supported by DOC funding.
Yeah.
It's unlikely now. So phase two was the big build, obviously, in terms of this, once you got the design and engineering build, and outsourcing that build to someone who we can trust that can do it.
Sure.
That's all. Scott, thank you very much. That's an impressive report, and what an impressive amount of work that's been undertaken, and as you say, nearly completed. Great to see all those projects just about ticked off. Thank you. Fantastic.
So, it's a major undertaking. I mean, that's a lot of projects to juggle.
Certainly is.
So just
Well done.
Just through the chair. So we've brought in 2 additional resources to catch up, particularly the carryover, and also with this year's end plan budget. We have secured some support to do some of the additional TIF funding projects, but also outsourced a lot of the projects to Joseph and Associates, who are doing a fantastic job, particularly on the larger projects for us. So we're trying to get, Scott's leading very well, to get ahead of the game so that we can actually be proactive in doing the front end project work better. So we have had a new resource that has started this 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Louise Dando, she has joined us, and she's doing a lot of the strategic planning work and asset management plan work, which we've been pretty miserable about doing in the last 3 or 4 years. So their resource is now on board as well.
So we've been consulting the assets team on tweaking the structure. So having a very clear separation between the strategic planning aspect of things and the delivery. And that's what this will do, which will improve. I mean, we've done a lot, but this will allow us to do a lot more work before planning.
There's a couple of minor projects I just want to talk about through the chair. So the Rocks community, the diversion of, I can't remember Greg's name, but that resource consent has come through now. We'll be working with the community on getting that Jones Creek, sorry, getting that work underway. So Hamish, our project manager, is leading that work with the community. So that's underway. There is some further work we're doing with the annual plan process. So there are a few other projects we'd like to put on the table for council for consideration. And we'll come back to council with the planning day in terms of what they may require. And some other projects we obviously know we won't be doing this year, which we'll look to carry over into the next plan.
Fantastic. Scott, many thanks. That's great. Okay, I shall move that the presentation from Group Manager District Assets be received. Councillor Davidson, second that. All those in favour? Aye. We have no staff report, so we now have to move to public excluded. I move that the committee meeting move into the public excluded section. Councillor Davidson, aye. And so those of you on Zoom, take 2 minutes to allow you disconnection and then reconnection for the next fairly short meeting.
Mr. Chair, an apology for the confidential section for me, please.
Certainly, Bruce, thank you.